working? Great, amazing. Catherine, thank you so much for the nice introduction. I'm really happy to be here with Jens, Kai, and Alexander to talk about designing the humanoid experience. Before we get to the questions, I would like to talk a bit about myself very shortly. So I have a design background, which is also one of the key challenges when doing humanoids. How do you design them? Humanoid robots have been talked about for quite a while. So the topic has been in the spotlight for some years. As you can see, we looked at the Google search term for humanoid robots, and you can see it's growing a lot. So it's definitely hype or growing. There's a lot of interest in that topic. And as designers, we always think about the why, of course. So we thought about why is this interesting now? And there's a couple of factors at play here. Some are technological, so you can see there's some tech developments that happen. So sensors are becoming better, motors are becoming better. Everything is getting miniaturized. Electronics are advancing. Energy storage is getting more dense, so we can have smaller batteries. Computing and connectivity, of course, is constantly increasing as well. And as we all experience, AI is basically everywhere. So with neural networks, large language models, and in general also, of course, software advancements, you can enable humanoid experiences like never thought before. Another key aspect to consider, of course, is the acceptance of humans of this new technology, something we always need to consider. And there are also some developments that enable or increase the acceptance. So there's a severe labor shortage, as we all experience. Some fields are really hit heavy by that, and humanoids can really help cover that shortage. So there is a natural acceptance. On top of that, we experience more and more automation in our everyday lives, so it becomes normal, and we more easily accept this. And then the last thing here is very obvious. Everyone is starting to work or has been working for a while with AI agents. So we're also used to communicate with technology much more than in the days before. On top of that, of course, there's a massive influx of capital. So a lot of companies, a lot of venture capital funds are investing. So now all these factors playing together seems to be enabling this right point in time for humanoids. But don't just take my word for it. There's a couple of other experts, and we collected some quotes here. You can see Mark Andresen, pretty prominent venture capitalist, saying robotics is going to be the biggest industry in the history of the planet. I'm sure Jens likes to hear that. And Jensen, the CEO from NVIDIA, actually adds something that is also an interesting thing to consider, which is humanoids fit in our existing world. There's very little adaptation that needs to be made for them to work. We can basically just drop them in. So looking back a little bit, we as humans, we were always fascinated with building machines that reflect ourselves. So looking at some science fiction, looking at some movies, you can see that this has been a theme for a while. And of course, these kind of things help also shape a picture of what we expect from a product like this. However, the communication or the conversation really changed because a lot of companies now announced products that are launched rather soon. So it's not a topic of the future anymore. It's something that seems to be happening rather soon. And that's why I'm really excited, actually, to have these lovely gentlemen on stage to talk about it. Let me introduce them quickly. So there's Kai. He's a professor for autonomous systems at the University of Stuttgart. His impactful career includes founding a robotics startup and leading robotics research at Bosch for many years. He's been recognized as one of Germany's innovators and served as an expert on the German Chancellor's Council for the Future. Professor Dr. Kai Arras is truly a leading voice in AI-based robotics. Next is Jens Fabrowsky. He's the CEO at NEURA Robotics, and he truly believes in the power of cognitive robotics and Industry 4.0. He is bringing his extensive experience in product development and scaling businesses to help NEURA grow rapidly and solidify its position as a leading robotics hub in Germany. And last but not least, Alexander Pröll. He's the CEO of Entrance Robotics and the founder of 10x Robotics. And he has 2 decades in digital consulting and 8 years in social robotic systems. He's truly a visionary in the field and believes that these advanced machines will represent the ultimate disruption, advocating for value-driven collaboration in Europe. All right, with that, we have a lot of interesting questions to cover today. Let's dive right into it. So Jens, in your opinion, what is the most underestimated functional challenge in building humanoid robots?
Underestimated. Wow, that's a cool question. I mean, we have an expectation that everything works perfect from the first moment. Yeah? But as you have probably seen on all these videos, these are really cool electromechanical machines which need to be combined by software and to meet an expectation. And I think the biggest challenge is the difference in expectations that we have. Yeah, if I would tell my humanoid, please clean up the table, maybe my result of cleaning up a table is different from what you expect. So I think the biggest challenge is not the mechanical movement. The biggest challenge is really to meet the expectations of what you say and what you get.
Mm-hmm. Kai, what's your opinion?
I don't know. Is that working? I don't know where to start. So maybe I break down my view on the technology push that we've seen in the last years, which also gave rise to this wave of enthusiasm about humanoid robots. So I see 3 things that made a huge progress in the last years. I start with very simple. We had progress in hardware with actuators, direct drive actuators that allow us to build those robots quite compactly. They move quite smoothly and dynamically, so that's great. We have simulation and reinforcement learning. So in order for a robot to learn to walk, it has to flip over like humans do, but you can do this in simulation massively at scale. And that's really cool. The simulation environments get increasingly good, so the sim to real gap, the difference between the environments that you simulate in your simulation environment and the reality gets smaller and smaller. It still needs a lot of good old-fashioned engineering to make a machine learning model that has been trained in simulation to work in reality, but this is a big progress. So we can have robots grasp things 1 million times in simulation before we deploy that on the system itself in the real world. And the third thing is, which is really fascinating, is foundation models from AI. So these models that scrape data from the internet at scale and brought us large language models in the form of ChatGPT and etc., but also language vision models. And this is progress. I'm in this field for 30 years almost. I was not as excited as I am now about my field. And what is really new is that we see maybe for the first time a path into this future of humanoid robots being around us. The big misunderstanding here is that seeing a path doesn't mean you have arrived at the goal. And I think there is divergence between experts, which are much more skeptical about those predictions being made right now, and some venture capitalists, and also Jensen Huang, who said the ChatGPT moment of robotics is around the corner. So in case you start saving money for the humanoid in 5 years to tidy up your house, hold your horses, I wouldn't bet on that.
Right, okay. But it's great to hear that there's some excitement and that this is moving
There's
forward.
definitely progress in the last years that made things possible that haven't been possible 5 years ago. Also in our research at the University of Stuttgart, we do fantastic things. I'm really excited. It's really good. Yeah.
It's great. Sounds good. So I think one of the things to consider, and maybe Alex, you can share your opinion on this as well, is where do we apply them first, right? So there is easier environments, like a factory where everything is fairly standardized. And then you have the chaos of a home, private home, that's like different everywhere, basically. Is there something like, with your experience in more like clinical scenarios, that would enable the usage of humanoids or would benefit that?
I think what was mentioned before on stage was also that, or what you also mentioned was we are in a stage of a high lack of skilled workers in general. So we are all aware about this and about the demographic change. So we are all becoming older, that's very good. But on the other hand, we will not have enough workforce to do our relief of our care system. So my mission for sure, as also mentioned, is that we want to bring social robots, as social as they can, because this is some kind of communication. It's about when is the acceptance of robotics in our environment high, if we lower fear for all different levels of age. So the Gen Z has a different approach than us. So I think we have to really bring robots step by step, especially in Germany with all our regulations. And we have to be brave to start what we also did in the last 8 years, to bring them in care. Because in care, it's a very emotional story, and it will affect all of us. So everybody, for sure, maybe has a family member, maybe affected by dementia, or going into some kind of elderly care home. And if we bring robotics to this kind of field, to our life, it will have the biggest impact. But to be realistic also, what is today? I know and we know that the first approaches are in the industries, like with automotive and sorting boxes, opening boxes, and so on.
Understood. So the care kind of scenarios would be also something where the benefits are immediately visible for everyone. And I guess there's also this notion that there are some experts, so the caretakers are around, maybe to also, if the robot doesn't exactly do what it's supposed to do, maybe they can catch the one or the other error. Jens, is that something that you also consider with, for anyone, for example, like your humanoids? Is that a scenario that you're looking at? Or is there like other things that are the, low-hanging fruits for you?
Let me be somewhere in another position first. I was just thinking where I get a euro from that I could go into the bed with you, saying, no, I mean, this will not take 5 years until we see a humanoid. Let's rather talk on what do we understand under humanoid. Yeah? I mean, is this walking thing with 10 fingers that might be around you and behave like your big brother? I would bet that we will see all kinds of humanoids. It's probably unbelievable for you what questions we get as requirements. Of course, you have tasks to be done that one hand is good enough. Even no hand is good enough just to bring stuff from A to B in a human environment. But you would probably laugh on how weird things we see. So just for example, if you go into the construction area, German word would be Trockenbau, and if you want to take one of these shields on the ceiling, well, 2 hands is at least 1 to less, so we are requested on 3 hands, 4 hands, 2 thumbs, 20 fingers, no fingers, so all kinds of variants. But one thing is for sure, we as human beings have learned one thing the hard way. Walking is pretty energy consuming, and standing is not our favorite position. That's why we're probably sitting here. So honestly, I do not expect that we see the first rush of humanoids that really walk on feet or stand somewhere in a corner. So, well, coincidentally, our first rollout was MIPA some weeks before we rolled out our For Anyone last week in Automatica. The reason is pretty simple. It has wheels, it's ways easier to control, it's ways less power consuming, and hey, it has 2 hands, so you can do what you expect from a human being to do. So I would say you will see a humanoid in 5 years in your home. I'm absolutely sure on that. The question is how it looks like.
Okay, thanks for that. That's great. No, this won't happen. But you're totally putting the finger at the right point. So yeah, one of the promises, why these promises are so huge, for example, market analysis. Stanley Morgan, I think, made a promise by that 2050, sort of realistic. Humanoid robots will be sold by the billions with $1 trillion business, etc. The reason is that if you have robots that can do everything humans can do, it's one of my favorite promises being made right now, you don't need other robots anymore. And you can overcome the fragmentation of the robotics business into specialized tasks and specialized forms. And then it might be cheaper to use a humanoid robot, which by economy of scales is mass-produced, to put into any application. So that's part to understand the hype. But I fully agree with everything that's being said. We should not be, so this is not going to happen. We should not be obsessed with the form factor of the humanoid. Form follows function. This is a lesson from design and architecture. Right. And we will take some time to really overcome this fragmentation. And absolutely, in man-made environments with flat floors, it's much better to put wheels. Sometimes you need one arm. Sometimes we need 7 arms. Maybe, your robots are the ultimate artifacts of man. So we can give it any shape. And I think we will see this.
Yeah, maybe I can add on this topic of fragmentation. Maybe especially when in the last years, where I was always confronted with this topic of German Angst, and to be in some kind of Central European situation where we are looking first for the 100% solution. And I liked what you just described, where you said, okay, we are on the path of fragmentation, where we mostly talk in the integrator perspective of robotics about an ecosystem. So you have a server running, you have maybe a cloud client, you have some kind of machine doing the interpretation, but it does not have to be on site, and it does not have to be in the robot. It does not have to be the robot, as you said, with 2 legs. It's some kind of hype topic because we also identify, because we are humans with this kind of features. But I think what's very important, as I see in the global competition, and to say step by step, we embrace these solutions, bring them to success stories. We already try it out, and not to have this attitude to wait till we have in the theory, and maybe as a digital twin, everything is perfect prepared. Because, as you said, I can do like 1,000 times of gripping, and in the real world, there will be some kind of parameter I didn't have on my agenda.
Yeah. I think that's a lot of interesting points, and I kind of like that you guys will, of course it's all recorded, so we'll see who's right at some point. I think one interesting thing there is also, especially if we think about introducing it into the home, you need to convince someone to spend money on it, right? So the thing I'm wondering about is like, how many use cases does the robot need to do maybe as good as I can do them, or better, faster, for me to be convinced that I'm going to spend some money on this, right? Or is it fine if it actually does something, worse than I do, but I don't have to do unskilled labor at home anymore because it's just taking away all my chores?
I think it's a matter of, we see it with vacuum cleaning. So the first vacuum cleaner was not by iRobot, the Roomba, it was by Electrolux for 2,000 euros at this point. It was too expensive. And then iRobot, with a no-name, no-quality promise being made, came in with something like $300. And this was the price point people were ready to pay. So that's one answer. So for one task, vacuum cleaning, people are ready to pay 300 euros now. It's a bit more. Hard to predict, but it's a good question.
Well, I would have given a slightly different answer. Obviously, we need to drink a beer somewhere. I mean, it's a question on what is the value of your time. I mean, automation it's all about getting time for things that I like to do, that I like to do more than the task that I have to do there. I always come with an analogy, saying, okay, if I'm willing to spend 10,000 euros for an e-bike, that I probably ride less than 200 kilometers per year because it's this nice fully, which I don't take for the beer garden anyway, then I will spend something around the same amount to get rid of things that I don't like to do, to win time for things that I like to do. And if I get this on a daily basis, it's even worth more then what is nice hobby, which I probably only do in summer when it's not raining, so it reduces to 20 days a year. So I think it comes from a different perception, it comes from a different price point, yeah? And I do not expect that it would end up in every household immediately. Yeah? That would come in from a certain point. And the question is how it grows. The growth is with the usability. Yeah? If this goes up, then the time I save will become more, and all of a sudden you might even get a counter position saying in a way, I can do something else that is more than value of free time. I can even earn money or do something in addition or save money because I spend it on somebody else. Yeah?
But then, so do you foresee, like, rather than buying a second car, we're going to buy a humanoid robot for maybe 20K?
Well, I would not go for the car. I would go for the e-bike. It's not. I mean, it's a good point why our MIPA at the moment you can pre-order below 10,000 euros. It's a reason. I mean, this is one of the things we are willing to spend for spare time. Yeah. So we need to bring time to go biking. The idea of a robot is to get time out of it. Yeah. So I think this is the price point where it starts. Yeah, where the good thing starts. So from an industrial point of view, I would do a different calculation. I mean, this is a simple return on investment calculation on the task I have to do. The same maybe for an area where you have somebody who takes care. This is a different logic, yeah. But for the point that comes from that side, I see it like this. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe to add up on this is what you mentioned before is where I said it was a 100% solution before. These are all aspects enabling robotics in our society, and also the example of these maybe mowing robots or vacuum cleaners and so on. It's for building up or scaling up, depending on the price, but also on the what does it do? Because I think everybody who knows has its robot at home and doing the vacuum cleaning. You mostly, especially with the first editions, you had to do stuff for yourself again in addition. So it's, as I said, it's not a 100% solution, but I think it's some kind of mindset where we have to accept this, and then we benefit from it. But the part of the population who is maybe like really from the sci-fi movies against robotics and so on, we have to show very positive robotic success stories, maybe also from your platforms with eyes to build up some kind of acceptance or level of acceptance. And this is very interesting to scale this up. So what you said was, so how far away is this future? It's interesting to understand that for many, or for the highest part of the population, still like having a vacuum robot or having some kind of mowing robot it's only a percentage of our population. And I dealt in the last years with Pepper, like he's also on the slide, and he's from 2015. He has not much capabilities. He's mostly communication. And even on other big tech festivals, I meet many people who haven't seen Pepper before. We have to understand this, I think, for the way for robotics.
Things take time to be introduced into the market, definitely. Alex, to stay with you for one more question on that topic of introducing technology. So you actually introduced robots into kind of care environments. How do you think do we need to shape humanoids in a physical appearance so they are accepted by humans? Right? You basically place this piece of technology into some environments. How do we need to design it, or how do we need to make it behave that people accept it? Do you have any insights from your past experience?
Yeah, so to be very concrete, it's like when we talk about, because he's also shown on the slide, or also Apollo, who is shown on the slide, and also from NEURA, for anyone, I think for the highest level of acceptance, when a robot is in the environment of a human being and really around us, in the last 8 years, also for, not only for Pepper, because he's very shaped like a child, so it's really a very cute approach. And even when he was introduced by SoftBank Masayoshi-san, he said, hey, this is a robot bringing you joy. So this is some kind of different argumentation for technology. In Asia, this is working very, very good. In Europe, we are very critical, very skeptical. We want to have some kind of, what is a practical need? What is the, in the end, what is the ROI for maybe taking care at home, for the reimbursement and so on. But for Pepper, he had his blinking eyes. It was an imitation of ourselves. Then he was able to dance, what we also saw with many humanoid robots. And then we start to identify with these robots. I had really hard tech guys talking to me and saying, hey, I'm not talking to a machine ever. I don't have an Alexa at home, I'm not using Siri, I'm not using anything. And then after 2 hours of trade fair or this event, I glimpsed over my shoulder and I saw this tech guy touching, cuddling Pepper's head, and then he was laughing. And it was very interesting to see this psychological effect of imitation of ourselves. So for care, because I'm always going into our aging population, I see a very high level of product design, for eyes blinking, for some also the color, what kind of colors do I take? Because I know many prototypes which are more like Terminator. You have a really steel artifact which is coming to you, and you maybe when you are in the hospital, you are in pain, you are insecure, and then this is some kind of additional stress level for you.
Sure.
So this is very important from the product design for the level of acceptance, and then the context and the use case.
So one thing, Jens, when you guys, I looked at this video where you introduced MIPA and how it's kind of living with the family. One thing I noticed, and also my kids really liked it, is that the family basically put stickers on the robot, right? So they customized it and somewhat personalized it as well. Is that something that you guys considered during the development of this product? Like, how can they make it their own, or is it always going to be very standardized?
Yeah. I mean, putting stickers on, I like very much. Yeah, my daughter would do
on a 10,000 euro machine,
as long as she doesn't stick it to a camera or to something that's really important on this important sensor on the product. I mean, we will always see this kind of individualization, and we have taken care of that. I don't want to talk about this because we are in cooperation with a pretty famous company from this area, okay, to bring something where you can basically choose how you want to personalize it.
Okay. Kai, in your experience, is that like personalization, trying to make it, as Alex said, like more human with emotions, is that something that helps with introducing this technology?
Maybe I can, so human-robot interaction is a whole scientific community with own conferences and journals, and they investigate exactly these things. And a robot, and that's valid for any product, by its visual appearance makes a promise about what it can do and how smart it is. And studies have clearly shown that this is the case also for robots. And for human-like robots or humanoids, first of all, it's a good thing in the sense that you don't have to learn, it doesn't wag with a tail to convey happiness. It's something that you have to learn. If we want to display affect, emotions, we would know how to do that. If it has a head, it can turn to signal attention. So that's a good thing. We have to take care of the uncanny valley. But one thing that I think is interesting is similar to hypes in general. If technologies are overpromised, the studies show that do not overpromise and underdeliver. For example, if you present a robot to humans that makes by its design a promise, promises too much, for example, because it looks like a human, and then this disappointment happens, then the true capabilities of the robots that are actually there are underestimated. So that's really something you don't want to have. So don't overpromise and underdeliver. And there's one actually good example in the social robot space, which is Paro in Japan. It's a social robot in the shape of a baby seal. So in German it would be a Babyrobbe. And that's a smart design choice because we don't have any expectations on how seals move and sound and behave. And the robot is like on your lap and you can pet it and caress it and it responds a little bit. It's not much going on, but it has been successfully tested for together with elderly people with mild cognitive impairments and dementia, with similar effects than animal-assisted therapy, and that's a very smart choice of a robot design. Right. And that's also why it's important, as long as our humanoid robots don't have the capabilities of a human yet, give it a technical look. I like it, the fact that the humanoids typically that you see in the media usually avoid to have a face, because it says like, I'm here for my arms and legs and fingers, I'm not here to talk to you. This is, I think, a good thing.
Yeah, I think these are very interesting points about expectation management and in general. I'm wondering, and we talked about this earlier, by seeing videos in social media, for example, or seeing videos of demos, right, like famously Boston Dynamics showing what Atlas can do and stuff like that, do these demos, do they benefit the industry by showing what a great product this could be, or is it actually over-promising something?
Yeah, thanks for the question.
I think, there's like a little detail even, like if you look at the videos, they barely make any sounds. And if you really see them in front of you, it's like a mechanical machine. They make sounds. And even this change could be something where people are disappointed because they think it's, high-tech, super science fiction stuff. It does make sound like an electric car or something, but actually it sounds sometimes very mechanical.
So I definitely don't want to be negative on what's happening right now, because we're seeing this hype of humanoids, because the hypes bring attention to a field and a lot of capital, and things are being done that really push the field. So that's a great thing. Yes, these videos. For example, one of the videos that some of you might have seen is Figure AI. It's the company that made the news by raising 700 million venture capital in the US. I think it's a record in robotics for developing humanoids. And they made a video of two robots standing shoulder to shoulder and tidy up the grocery items. And they are presented to them. They never have seen the items. And then they recognize, okay, it's an apple. I can grasp an apple. This goes into the fruit bowl. And then the flour goes to the cupboard. The milk goes to the fridge, etc. So that's a great video. It's well made. The problem with these videos, as you insinuate, is that they suggest as if we have solved the problem. And this is not the case, and all experts agree. This is really raising. I love these videos, but it's just that if the technology was there, the same company would make such a video every week. The week after, those robots would tidy up a corridor with bags and shoes and jackets. The week after, they would tidy up a children's bedroom. A week after, they would help someone cook. Yeah. But this is not happening because a highly qualified team has worked for months just for this video. And I'm not saying the video is fake, because what the robot can do, like it has never seen these objects, it can grasp them. This is exciting progress. It's not fake. Still, the technology is not there for 5 years having humanoids in everyone's home. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm also wondering with these videos, like how many takes did it take to show this perfect kind of example? Jens, I'm pretty sure you know that how robots can fail and how many times you need to train them to get them right. One thing that I'm wondering, and now I'm jumping a little bit, but I'm wondering, I recently read that Amazon has like more than 1 million robots now, and they actually start to scale down their basically labor force because they have a lot of robotics now. One thing I'm wondering is like, do we need to think about a contribution to the social system security? If you think about pensions, and this is like way far out, of course. Do robots basically need to start paying into these systems? Because at some point, if we take the Amazon example and we kind of scale this up, labor is not going to be such a big contributor anymore. Or will our labor just change? I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Well, you were looking pretty much in my direction. I don't like this question, honestly.
Okay, sorry.
I mean, this is always a question on what is where you get the money from and where you use it to. Yeah? And that's rather for me the let's say the provocation to talk on how do we use the money, how much money do we need, and how to collect it when we do. But trying to stick a bit to your question. Again, it may be a bit provocative, saying if you have more time, I guess you won't sleep more. You would consume more. So I would say we will get two things by robotics. The one is we get an economical performance which we would not get because, I mean, there's simply somebody missing who is doing the value creation. So this is one thing we get for sure. If you would start charging a company for that, I know what happens. You would move to a country that doesn't do that, so I would strongly recommend not to think about that, because that would finally drive industry also in a highly automated state out of Germany. So this I wouldn't touch. The same would be for me on a home automation thing. I would strongly observe on what happens. Yeah, if automation leads to consumption, I would not try to put a burden on automation. Yeah. You get it back on consumption anyway. If automation would lead to a sleeping society, which I strongly doubt, then I would start thinking about this.
Yeah, I mean, there's dystopian or utopian futures from when all the necessary work in a society is made by robots. So people are philosophers and artists and travelers. But I really want to emphasize, Alexander, what you're doing is so important.
Yes.
In Germany, in 2030, the German labor market will lose 500,000 people per year. So this is going to come. So there will be, that's also why I'm optimistic that in whatever form factor, we will see more robots, AI-based robots, and elderly care is one of the pressing issues that we're going to solve. Robotics is not the only answer to this, but it's part of the answer.
Thank you. Yeah, it's maybe to comment this. So, thank you very much, because it's for me. This is why with 10X we are currently founding this new company, and then coming back to all these great companies doing the platforms like you with NEURA, and because in Germany, as I said, we are fighting now for more than 8 years against so many regulations, against so much fear, against so much what the speaker on stage did. Also, it cannot be done. So, and this is very interesting because with our small company, we were a team of 10 people, and now we are with this new foundation, we do it again, and for the future, build it up. We brought over 150 robots into elderly care, and it's only Pepper. Pepper is very cute, as I said, but he cannot do much. And now with this experience, I'm really, really excited to all the platforms coming now, and then to breach through this hard stages in Germany, but also we do it in Switzerland, in Netherlands, in France, in Denmark, to bring more and more success stories to come to this threshold where we really start about, I have my robot doing the laundry or whatever, doing it at home. And yes, it will not be the perfect universal machine up front, for sure. But great feedback, thanks.
All right. So you mentioned Germany and some restrictions and some regulations that we have to deal with. This also kind of plays into this direction maybe of ethics. So regulation is something that's basically enforced, but ethics is maybe something that the companies themselves developing these robots keep in mind when they do so. So I'm wondering, should there be any restrictions in terms of developing AI capabilities, and how do we enforce or make sure that robots basically adhere to the law, for example? How do we maintain control of these seemingly independent machines?
Well, maybe I answer from a technology side. That's the way we have discovered for us. I mean, just think of a robot that is made like, technology-wise, like a smartphone. There's a layer where nobody's allowed to touch besides us. This is where safety is, but that's also where limits are. Yeah? That's where you bury what you want to bury there and what you want to be sure that this robot never does or always does what depended on. A layer higher, you have all sensors, you have all controls, you can basically get information as much as is available, and you can give every input you want to give. Nevertheless, the layer below might hinder you on doing this. And on top, you can put something from a smartphone, we would call it app. On a robot, technical term would be rather containerized software. You put it on top, everybody can take his function, so you can put some care stuff on it, somebody else might do on the same body some industrial thing, but one stays unchanged. This is this lowest layer. So if the command is, please hit me in the face, yeah, I can control that in a way. Sorry, hitting in the face is not possible. Going from A to B is not possible because there is a face, and I have recognized that.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
If the child asks to reach for the candy on top of the shelf, would it do it?
Well, if we want to block it, we can block it. Yeah. Because we know what a candy is. I mean, otherwise you would not be able to grasp it. It's becoming a bit more tricky when you want to cheat it deliberately in a way. I'm hiding stuff or things like this. But nevertheless, I mean, you have to think that really on the technology base, and you have to bury it into your design, because otherwise you are not capable of controlling it.
It's an interesting question you mentioned, because this is where I think the perspective from Germany is very good, because also for autonomous cars, we always had this example of if you have an autonomous car, does the car drive over the elderly women or the kid? Like two options, and what does it do, and who is responsible? And the risk management was what you just described with reaching out for the can and what can happen. I think there is some kind of combination of pre-evaluation and also test scenarios, hopefully also are great with institutions such as yours to test things out, to learn about this, and where is like where's the potential to start.
And maybe not an answer to your question, but sort of an elaboration why this is so important. Because if we deploy robots with humans over longer periods of time, so relationships will form. This is maybe also the task of the robot, and trust will be built between the robot and the human. And especially if you deal with vulnerable users, elderly people, also children maybe, this is actually something that can be exploited. In such a relationship, the robot could place advertisement or political messages that we don't want it. So it is a real issue beyond just physical safety of robot. Yeah.
Right. All right, very good points. We're almost at the end. I have one more question for each and every one of you, maybe just with a short answer. So considering AI systems, there was always this Turing test, or it is still there, to assess the intelligence of these systems. And the premise is basically, if a human cannot determine if a machine or a human is answering a text-based conversation, then the machine passes the test. Is there, and thinking about humanoids with kind of our form factors and our limbs and all the things we have, is there a Turing test for humanoid robots? And if yes, what could it be? What's the task?
You can
okay. Say you have a humanoid robot at your home, and you have an event where you have to dress up. I think the Turing test is that short before the event, the humanoid robot gives you a haircut and puts the makeup. That could be the Turing test.
Okay. Alex, Jens, do you have any perspectives? Like, what's the really hard thing, and we solve it, and then...
Maybe I'm this old manufacturing guy. I'm ways easier in my brain saying, hey, if there's a task and it can solve the task, and it can do it in a way that it reacts on the situation, yeah? Which means if the cat comes by, it doesn't run over the cat, I would be fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Alex?
Yeah, I think in the environment, what you described was makeup or something very, which is totally mutual to our daily life. And for me, the Turing test is always something, do we see the difference or not? If it's passing like 70% and so on. And interesting also the psychological factor is in the chat mechanism, so before this, what you just described, bringing to the humanoid scenario, we already live in the world where like elderly people can talk now or chat, and they don't see the virtual environment anymore, which is a very ethical discussion. But I embrace this as a very big future because isolation and loneliness in this society is a really big factor. And the Turing test for the future with humanoid robots, for me, always also inspired by Asia, open-minded situation. We will have also from the design very, very humanoid robots. If we want it in Europe or not, that there will be for a niche at least. And there will also be the day, I cannot predict now if it's next year or in 5 years, that they are so well made, then if you pass by, you don't see the difference. And I think this is very interesting to step by step take this into account when we talk about our future and what do we want with robotics. And this is great that we are here with these kind of discussions, because we have to have some kind of opinion from Europe. Because there's America, there's India, Russia, mostly China, and they will have it adapted to their culture. But we have our culture, so this is why I do my job. I try to have this perspective from Europe.
All right, great. Thank you so much for your perspectives and your answers. I think for me at least was very insightful. And of course, there's lots more questions to be answered. So we at Zigzag, we will try to make this into a series of talks going forward in the future, since there's lots more to explore there. If you're interested, sign up, and yeah, we'll let you know. Thank you so much, guys, for this.